Today sees a drastic change to Death Guard's disgusting resilience. The Feel No Pain save is entirely gone, it's now -1 to damage. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're looking at the new Death Guard Disgustingly Resilient rule, which has been previewed by Warhammer community today. They've been coming out with some minor rule changes for Death Guard over the course of the week. I've held off making videos on them so far now, as most of them I feel are quite minor changes. Hopefully we'll sum them up tomorrow, but today I wanted to pay some special attention to Disgustingly Resilient. So Disgustingly Resilient is a core rule to the Death Guard Codex, and honestly it wasn't one that I was expecting to change in any big way in this update. Since the start of 8th edition, when Death Guard were first released as their own standalone faction, that 5+ Feel No Pain type save has kind of been synonymous with all things Nurgle. I honestly thought that they'd keep it the same. It seemed to work well enough as it did, and it seemed very fluffy to make them a lot tougher than they really should be. Possibly one of the reasons for the change was to streamline the amount of dice rolling you need to do. Having an extra 5+ saving throw could be a bit fiddly, particularly when you were hitting infantry with multi-damage weapons. It meant that you typically had to roll them individually. The new rule will certainly speed the game up a little bit. It's now flat -1 damage on everything. Essentially all the models that have Disgusting Resilience have just traded out their Feel No Pain type save for Dreadnought style Duty Eternal from Codex Space Marines. The change is an interesting one. It is better on some things, but it's much worse on others. In terms of damage reduction, if you're looking at the most simple case on a really big multi-wound model such as a Plague Burst Crawler, old Disgusting Resilience essentially was a 50% durability increase due to the chance of you making further Feel No Pain type saves on wounds that you already saved with Feel No Pain. Feel No Pain type saves could be a little bit less value on 1 or 2 wound model, as anything with multiple damage would have a very good chance of just killing a 1 wound model with Disgusting Resilience anyway. It didn't matter if you passed 4 out of your 5 Disgusting Resilience rolls on a Plague Marine. Provided you failed one, it might still go down to a 5 damage las cannon. The new Disgusting Resilience rule is really quite tailored to be strong against certain weapons. Unfortunately, it will have absolutely no effect on mortal wounds or damage 1 weapons. These weapons are just going to be a lot more efficient against chewing through most targets in the Death Guard army, though I would bear in mind that hand in hand with this change goes the increase in wounds to Plague Marines and Terminators, so even if Disgusting Resilient isn't making them stronger against these weapons anymore, they are already going to be tougher against them, just because they have more wounds to chew through in the first place, probably at not very much of a points jump. The new rule only really supersedes the old one against flat damage 2 weapons, things like overcharged plasma, power fists, autocannons and the like. They will be so much less efficient against Disgusting Resilience now. The old rule, as we said, would give them a 50% durability increase. This is now a 100% durability increase, just double the survivability, as you're going to be taking half the wounds. Honestly, this is absolutely great for Death Guard. A lot of weapons out there are flat damage 2 now. A lot of damage D3 weapons are changing to damage 2, such as power fists. And damage 2 weapons are really good for taking out things like 2 wound infantry, such as Plague Marines have become. Against damage D3 and damage 3 weapons, it maths out to be roughly the same, at least against hard targets such as Plague Burst Crawlers. You'll still be getting around about a 50% increase in durability, so no big changes there. It's a bit more complicated on the infantry. Now flat damage 3 weapons are going to be a bit better at killing Plague Marines, but possibly a little bit worse at killing Blightlord Terminators, as you don't have any chance whatsoever just to one-shot them with a single damage 3 shot if you roll low on Disgusting Resilience. There's no getting around the fact that the rule is a bit weaker against higher damage weapons though. On average, against multiple damage D6 weapons hitting something big like a Plague Burst Crawler, you're only getting a +32% increase to durability rather than +50%, and if you do get into even higher damage output weapons, then it does get even worse. It's still by no means a bad buff to durability, but not quite as powerful as it once was before. Overall, at least against big hard targets, this rule is worse against mortal wounds or damage 1 weapons, far better against damage 2, about the same against damage D3 and damage 3, and worse again against very high damage output weapons. Overall though, I do think that this could still potentially be a buff for Death Guard infantry, mainly just due to damage 2 weapons being so good against them. Taken in context of the extra wound that they got, Plague Marines going up to 2 wounds and Terminators going to 3, it means that they're no less durable than before against damage 1 weapons, even with Disgusting Resilience having no effect against them. In this update, it doesn't look like they'll be weaker against this sort of fire. Before, big anti-tank weapons would still also kill a Plague Marine in 1 shot most of the time, so to be honest that hasn't really changed very much for damage 3 weapons or damage D6 weapons, but this rule is really good for the niche of damage 2 weapons, which are really effective against elite infantry. So with a new Death Guard you could potentially make an elite infantry army that's really tough against the firepower that's designed to kill elite infantry. It's a really scary prospect, as there's almost no weapons in the opponent's army that's really going to be all that efficient when shooting Plague Marines or Terminators. Damage 1 weapons will still be a bit underwhelming against multi-wound infantry. Damage 2 weapons will be damage 1 weapons now. And anti-tank firepower is going to be kind of wasted going into infantry models compared with tanks. Flat damage 3 weapons are going to be the most efficient way to bump off Plague Marines now, but even then that's not really a very efficient use of them. Usually those sort of weapons are going to be good at removing multiple wounds from very tough, very expensive vehicles, rather than bumping off 20 odd point Plague Marines. On the other hand, it is likely a bit of a nerf for the durability of things like Poxwalkers or Demon Engines. With 1 wound, Poxwalkers won't be able to get any benefit from this rule unless they're either repointed or get a different rule in place to make them more durable. We're just going to have to wait and see for the Codex for them. Demon Engines as well, they'll be much more resistant to damage 2 firepower, but worse versus any dedicated anti-tank, such as las cannons or melter guns and things. On the whole, I'd argue that it's probably a slight nerf to them, but it does depend on exactly what sort of guns your opponent brought. I think that the change will certainly speed up games for Death Guard players by quite a bit, and to be honest, provided everything is balanced within the Codex and against other codexes, removing a layer of dice rolls from the game that only added more saving throws isn't exactly the worst move in game design, particularly if you can achieve broadly the same effects by a rule that doesn't require more dice rolls. Having said that though, we really don't have any confirmation that there won't be any way to get Feel No Pain type saves within the Death Guard Codex. Indeed, I now have my eye on the Plague Surgeon, this nice corrupted Death Guard apothecary. Beforehand, he could allow you to reroll 1s on Disgusting Resilience. Now I do wonder if he's just going to be switched to being similar to the Space Marine apothecary, and provide a 6+ Feel No Pain type save for Death Guard units nearby. If so, then it could make Death Guard infantry lines even more ludicrously durable. I really don't relish the prospect of trying to gun down Death Guard infantry that have -1 damage and also potentially still get a Feel No Pain. I'll admit that that's complete rumour at this point, but it's likely that as a Plague Surgeon he is going to do something to either heal them or make them more tough. So let me know what you think of the new rule down in the comments below. Is it a buff or a hindrance to the Death Guard army, or are you now wondering whether or not all your investment in plasma weapons or damage 2 power fists might be a bit of a bad one? If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll certainly be keeping the 40k content coming. I'll be hoping to cover all the other Death Guard rules that they've previewed this week, either tomorrow or Saturday. Finally, if you have been enjoying all these videos, I'd just like to mention that the channel does have a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description. Making all this content does take a fair amount of time, so if you are enjoying regularly, then any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons get to see certain videos early before anyone else, they get to vote on regular polls to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and you also get automatic entry to the Auspex Tactics prize giveaways, which happen once every month. The next one at the start of January will be for 3 copies of the Blood Angels Combat Patrol box. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.